Hello, everybody, and welcome to this Sunday evening's OpenMicVO. It's so great to have you all here tonight. I wanted to remind you that tonight's topic is open. So any question, any comment with regards to the voiceover business is welcome. So that could be performance related. It could be home studio recording related. Maybe it's business development related. Maybe you've got questions about pay-to-play sites. Maybe it's about union versus non-union. All those types of questions are welcome tonight. The event is about us getting together as a community, and it's not just about me. It's about getting all of us getting together and sharing stories and sharing knowledge to both get and give advice, and to collaborate on problems that may be posed by one of our attendees tonight. I'd like to start tonight with a little bit of an editorial. This past week has been a disturbing one in the voiceover business. There was a New York coach by the name of Peter Rofe who has been accused by many female voice actors of having been abused during coaching sessions, particularly when he was running his studio in New York City. You know, one of the things that I start every Sunday night with, and have practically since the first day I hosted these Sunday evening events, was that we're all professionals here and we all deserve to be treated with the respect that's due to a fellow professional. And to have a coach exploiting female students is inexcusable. He's being investigated by the New York Police Department's SVU. So very well, there may be charges laid. We're not sure, because many of the events have now passed the statute of limitations. So anyway, it's been a very sad week, and I implore any of you who are on this call tonight, and that's male or female, if you are ever feeling uncomfortable in a work situation, if you find yourself in a recording booth and someone is too close, tell them to back off. There is no excuse for unprofessional behavior. There's no excuse for you ever feeling uncomfortable in a coaching situation or in a work situation. Don't stand for it. The rules tonight are simple. Please mute yourself if you're not actively participating in the conversation. That'd be awesome. There's a little mute button in the lower left-hand corner of your Zoom meeting box. Just click it once and you're muted. Click it again to unmute yourself. Be nice to each other, especially tonight after what's happened, after what's transpired in the past week. Let's make sure we treat each other professionally. And please remember that we're recording, and the recordings get posted to YouTube. So you can always go back and have a listen if there's something that you're interested in hearing again. But just remember they're being recorded. If you happen to share any confidential proprietary information, just remember that once it hits YouTube, I really can't control where it is that it ends up. Want to remind you that VoiceZam is bringing you OpenMicVO tonight. You may not realize this, but buyers may be giving up on listening to your complete demos, and here's why. Because voiceover demos contain multiple segments, multiple tracks. But almost all online players play them back linearly from the first track to the second track to the third track. You can't kind of, just click and fast forward to individual segments. Well, with VoiceZam, you can. It's a very, very cool product. It's a patented demo player. It's unlike anything else out there, and certainly recommend that you check it out. You go to voicezam.com, and if you enter the promo code OpenMic, OPENMIC, you will get your trial period doubled. So instead of a 2-week trial, you'll get a month-long trial. So make sure you check it out. That's voicezam.com and enter promo code OpenMic. So let's get started. Once you see that I've unmuted you, feel free to ask the first question, offer the first story, and please remember to mute yourself if you're not going to be speaking right away. So this always takes me a moment. Just give me a second here. We've got a bunch of people on already. So
did you unmute me intentionally, Graham?
I did. Everyone gets unmuted, and then you mute. And then you can mute yourself, or JD, ask the first question.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to know who I am going to be spending VOAtlanta with. I'm extremely excited.
Fantastic. Well, I'm one. I'll see you there.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Although I've already put your face with your name. I'm looking forward to it. This is my first VOAtlanta, and I am looking forward to just soaking in everything.
Well, there is so much learning to be had, and a lot of that learning, of course, is in the breakout sessions and in the keynote speech and et cetera. But there's so much of the learning that you're going to find is to be had in the hallways, in between sessions. It's incredible how much you can learn when just networking with your fellow voice actors. It's such an incredibly welcoming group. I think you're going to enjoy yourself very much.
Oh, I know you're absolutely right. I went to VO Mastery this past October, and I had exactly the experience you were describing. And I did also have an opportunity for VOAtlanta to jump into Uncle Roy's mastering session or audio production session. So I'm very happy about that.
Very good. For those of you who aren't familiar with Uncle Roy, Roy Yokelson is a demo producer. He's a coach and a demo producer based in upstate New York, I believe. And he's quite the character and very popular amongst the voiceover community. And he produces very good demos. So he is offering what's called a masterclass, or an X session, actually, is what they're called at VOAtlanta. So you have to pay a little more to attend one of these X sessions, but they're 3 hours long. You're in a class of only 12 people, and you get a ton of one-on-one time with your instructor. They're incredible value. So if you do check out the VOAtlanta website, it's voatlanta.me. That's right. I was going to say us. voatlanta.me. And check out the X sessions. Many of them are sold out now already, I believe. But
there are a handful this weekend that are discounted by $24. I think the sale still goes on until sometime this evening.
Ah, fantastic. So some of you may want to head over to the VOAtlanta website now. And it's okay. We'll let you leave for a few minutes, but just come on back. That's all. But if you want to check out these X sessions, go to voatlanta.me, and there's I had forgotten about that. There is a discount of $24 off each X session until I think it's midnight tonight.
Hi, Graham. This is Blair in Los Angeles.
Hey, Blair. How are you?
Hi, just fine, thanks. So I have a question about free music. A client has asked me to put together a phone, messaging, a message, and wanted me to add music to it. I didn't think to say anything about, and the music costs more. So I was hoping to get some free music, and I've kind of done some Google searching, but it looks like even when you go to the sites that say there's free music, I can't find the free button. So can someone tell me where to get some free music?
Well, there's a difference between free music and what they call royalty-free music.
Okay.
Royalty-free music you still pay for. You still, usually it's not very expensive. It might be $16 or $18 or sometimes even $30. But you don't have to pay any royalties on it after that. You can use it as you need for commercial purposes without paying additional royalties. So that's what they mean by royalty-free music. So as far as actual free music, I don't know. Does anybody out there have any sources for that? I know there's lots of great sources for royalty-free music, but you do have to pay something.
Is it called audio blocks? I'm going to Google this right now. There is a service out there that provides a lot of royalty-free music for a pretty nominal fee.
Yeah, there's a lot. Like one of the great places to check out is Envato, ENVATO.com. And under the Envato umbrella, there's royalty-free music. There's royalty-free, photo processing presets. There's royalty-free images. There's all kinds royalty-free video if you're producing video footage.
Great.
So there's lots of stuff under that umbrella of Envato, ENVATO.com. I use their music on a fairly regular basis, and it's really useful. There are some folks who are typing some stuff into the chat box. There might be some
I've just
good resources there.
I've just posted the audio blocks link. That's all royalty-free stock audio. It's pretty comprehensive.
Thank you very much. The few things I found started at about $50, so I hope to find something for a little less. Thanks, guys.
You should be able to find, like I use at Envato, I can't remember the name of their audio, like their music stuff, but it's, I don't know, $18 or $22 for a 30-second little piece of music. It's not that expensive.
Super. Thanks.
Graham, I have a question about producing public domain books. When an author's work, when the copyright is lapsed and then, and it becomes a free-for-all, are there specific guidelines if one were going to produce an audio book of a favorite author's work that's in the public domain that we should be aware of before firing up the mic?
There are several voice actors out there who have made the narration of public domain books kind of their specialty. And in fact, there's a guy out there named Stephen Cohen who has actually set up a company, like an audiobook publishing company, that does nothing but public domain books. You may want to consider getting a hold of Stephen J. Cohen. It's S-T-E-V as in Victor, not P-H. Stephen J. Cohen, and talking to him about his audiobook production company. Short of that, though, I mean, once something's in the public domain, it's in the public domain, and you're free to do with it as you wish. And that's why you see, if you go and Google, or if you go to Audible and do a search for Huckleberry Finn, you're going to find 35 versions of it, because Mark Twain is now in the public domain. Anyone else have any experience in producing or in narrating public domain books? Anyway, so you might want to check out Stephen J. Cohen. I can't remember the name of his production company right off the top of my head, but he's quite easy to find on the web. So
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Unmuting a few more people here.
Yeah, public domain. It can be a little complicated. Years ago, I had a little company where I was recording public domain books, at least books that I thought were public domain. Families do have the right to to re-up their ownership of their ancestors' books and so on. I'm not sure if there's actual real solid time limits. So each one you kind of have to take on a case-by-case basis. If you come across a book that you really like that's quite old, it's worth taking a look.
Well, what attracted my attention was my discovery of a favorite science fiction author's work that had been on Project Gutenberg for several years now. So that's why I'm looking into it.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, I wonder if Tom Swift is in the public domain.
I remember
Now,
books.
there is a project worth producing.
Okay, let's do it.
You're on. You want to be Tom or Bud?
Oh, you're going back. Wonderful.
Who else has got a question for us tonight? It's open topic night, so any question with regards to the voiceover business in general is welcome. Just making sure people are unmuted here. Just by show of hands, from that question where we started, how many people are going to VOAtlanta? Just raise your hand in the, there we go. 3, 4. Looks like 5 or 6 of us are going to VOAtlanta. That's pretty good. There's about 35 of us online right now, so 5 or 6 of us are going. That's awesome. Looking forward to seeing you all there. It's funny how there's people that live relatively close by to me that I never see here in Toronto, but I always end up seeing at conferences. And a guy named Pat Sweeney is one of the ones that immediately comes to mind. If you ever see Pat Sweeney at a conference, he's one of the nicest guys ever in the voiceover business. And he's a successful voice actor and does a lot of medical narration work, which is one of his specialties. I see Bev is online with us tonight, and Bev, again, lives not very far from me here in Toronto. And again, the only time I ever managed to see Bev is at conferences, it seems. Just still unmuting people here.
Hi, Graham.
Hello, Anthea.
Hi there. Hey, I have a question for you. What do you all think would be the best VO conference for a newbie?
Well, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever, there really is only one VO conference that happens right now that has any sort of scale. There is so VOAtlanta, which happens in on the airport strip in Atlanta. It's going to be March 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th this year. And there's probably going to be about 500 voice actors. And by the time you add in all the volunteers and speakers, and it's going to be over 600 people, all connected to the voiceover business, who are going to be there. So it's pretty exciting. There are a number of smaller conferences as well. I know of one that's coming here to Toronto called VO North, and it's going to be in May of this year, May 12, I believe. It's going to be a one-day, an all-day Saturday event. There's one in London, England, that's coming up at the end of April. Does anyone else have some of the smaller ones that I'm not aware of that we should make sure that people are aware of?
Well, there will be VO Mastery in North Hollywood, probably around October of this year.
Right. That's Randy Thomas, right?
Yes.
Right. So Randy Thomas is a successful voice actor. She's done everything. She's done everything from retail ads for grocery stores to she was the live announcer at the Academy Awards one year. So she's done it all. And she runs a smallish conference, and it's smallish because she wants to keep it that way. It's usually around 80 people or so. And that happens in the Los Angeles area because she's recently moved there. So
that may be contradictory, but I believe it was about 300 this year.
Was it really?
In 2017, I believe it was.
Unbelievable. I did
Yeah.
not know that. So
It was pretty successful.
I guess that is indicative of the need of a conference on the West Coast. And there just hasn't been for quite some time, since I guess 2014 was the last time there was a conference of any size on the West Coast.
Agreed.
Just making
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who else has questions tonight?
Hi, Graham. It's Bev.
Hey, Bev.
How are you?
Long time no speak.
I know. Well, I'll see you soon.
Atlanta.
I just wanted to add to the conference question is which is the best one for a newbie? I can honestly say I am a bit of a conference junkie in that I've spoken at conferences. I've simply attended conferences. I've helped with the organization of a conference, very minor, but did get involved in that respect. And when I was just starting out, you simply have to be able to absorb what is applicable in your position. So you're going to get a lot of information and you're going to get a lot of notes. And then you just have to take back what works for you at the stage you're at. So if somebody who's been up there and has been full-time for 10 years, listen to what they have to say, but know it's going to take time for you to be there. And just to be able to connect in person with people you'd like to get to know down the road is a huge advantage over just knowing them over the internet. So pretty much any conference you go to is good for a newbie, but just get the information that's going to work for you at the time and don't overwhelm yourself. That's all I wanted to say.
It's so easy. It's so easy to come back and be all pumped up and enthusiastic, and then we all have, fall back into our old habits again. So I think that your advice to kind of pick 2 or 3 real key learnings or key relationships and really focus on them and stick with them. I think that it makes whatever investment you've made in the conference worthwhile.
Hey, Graham, can I jump in here?
Hey, Michael, how are you?
I am fabulous, thank you. If there's any echo, let me know. I'll put some headphones in. But as a potential alternate viewpoint, I know we've got a lot of conference junkies in here. I am not one. And so my viewpoint as a potential alternative would be that if you are new to the industry, you may be better served by taking the amount of money you would be spending on traveling, on the conference attendance fees, and using it to buy a nice gear, nice treatment for your recording space, stuff like that. Because after, the ticket to VOAtlanta is what, $550? It's pretty substantial, and you can get a really nice microphone for that. So if you already don't have the physical means to get into the business, you may be putting the cart before the horse in making a bunch of connections and getting the knowledge first. While knowledge is very important, you can learn a lot just on the internet too. And in my personal career, I think I was much better served getting my technical ability up to a level that I could start pursuing it professionally before I started trying to make the professional connections. But that's just my 2 cents. There's valid points to be made either way. And
yeah, and Michael, $550 also will buy you at least 3 coaching sessions with most coaches as well. So question from Tatum, and Tatum is asking, what should one be looking for when assessing voiceover training and coaching? And I know that there's some people online here tonight that have opinions on this, and I really do want to make sure that we get them. So who's got some thoughts on what are the attributes that make for a good training program or for a good coach?
Well, this is Blair, and I just have a quick couple of thoughts. first thing, if you know you want to specialize in something, you want to find a coach that specializes in that as well. You don't want to go to a promo coach if what you want to do is audiobooks. So I'll kick the conversation off with that. Thanks.
Other thoughts on coaching, on, if you're new to the business, how do you go about assessing the VO training that's available?
And we are talking about looking for a specific coach, right? Not like a seminar or a conference or something.
Yeah, the question's from Tatum, and I'm quite certain Tatum says they're new to VO. What should one look for when looking for VO training or coaching? So yeah, I think we're talking about training organizations like Edge Studio or Voice One out in San Francisco, or individual coaches, specific coaches, Tatum says.
Well, yeah, definitely looking for a coach that's in the genre that you're interested in is important. I know a lot of people that take from a lot of different coaches. I personally haven't really done a lot of coaching, but the few sessions I have done are usually with people that aren't actually actors. For instance, somebody like Mary Lynn Wisner, who is an amazing casting director, and she's a producer too, right? She does a lot of commercial work. And for me, I get a lot of value out of the perspectives of somebody that is on the other side of the desk. And while if you're new, it can be helpful to take coaching from more experienced actors, so you can get kind of the actors' mentality and some tips and tricks on how an actor should handle themselves in the booth. But I personally don't think you should stick with only coaching from other voice actors, because the potential conflict is that they are teaching you from their experience and their standpoint, and your experience and your perspective on stuff might be a little different. And if you just try to mimic and learn exactly like what they're doing, you may end up like thinking that your own interpretation is somehow inferior to theirs, when eventually what you're going to want to do is develop your own personal sound and your own perspective and your own techniques, so that when somebody's hiring you, they're hiring you and not a slightly inferior copy of whoever you've been coaching from.
Michael, 5 years ago, I would have disagreed with you, but I do, now that I've coached with a number of different organizations and a number of different coaches, I think that there's a lot of value in getting perspectives from different coaches. I'm really quite happy that I've been able to coach with, I coached with Nancy Wolfson in Los Angeles. I coached with Dorianne Elliott in New York. I've done a little bit of work with Pat Fraley. I've done a little bit of work with Maurice Tobias. And then I've done work with, a number of Edge Studio coaches when I was working with Edge Studio. So I think that there's a lot of value in kind of spreading it around a little bit, rather than, working for 4 years with the same coach, because I think there comes a point where you've probably, extracted what you can get from that coach, and you need someone with a different perspective to allow you to spread your wings further, I think.
Yeah, and I started out coaching my first, I think I had like 4 sessions with Terry Daniel when I was brand new, and he's good at kind of getting you started real quick in a crash course and telling you what you need to know. But I found much more benefit, and my reads got much better after I started coaching. I did a few sessions with a casting director that was in my town, named Jim Rayland. And then also when I went to Mary Lynn and Jody Gottlieb, other, people that aren't really actors. And because it just kind of got me out of like my own head and into thinking about, okay, well, what's the casting director looking for? And because they're the ones that are going to hire you. So if somebody that's going to hire you tells you what they want to hear, that matters a lot more, you know? So, but I try to spread around. And if somebody really clicks with you, great, but don't feel like you have to be super, this is my guy and I'm super loyal and I don't coach with anybody else.
Exactly.
That's my perspective though.
Yeah. This is James in New Jersey.
Hey, James.
How you doing?
Thanks for coming in tonight.
Sure. There is an organization in New York City called the Actors Connection, and they have VO classes all the time with several different types of coaches. And one of them that I took coaching with, which relates to Michael's thing, is a casting director from one of the major recording houses in the city, who also at one time was a copywriter for commercials. And getting that kind of perspective on how, you know, the copy is created, you know, what the legal things are, if it's like a medical thing, the fundamentals of commercial copy, the way it's structured. You have an opening, a problem that needs to be solved. You have a conclusion, then you have the wrap up, which is the tag. I mean, just how the copy is built and how to interpret it from there was really, really beneficial.
Bev, you mentioned that it's important to do your research on finding coaches. Can you tell us a little bit about what you mean by it's important to do your research?
Sure, Graham, happy to. There's a lot of coaches out there, and there's a lot of great coaches out there, but that doesn't mean that you can work with them. And I think it's find out, and social media is a great way to do it. Ask around who other people that you know and respect have coached with them, and have a one-on-one chat. Ask how the process works. Ask if they had any issues. Ask, you know, the questions that you would ask. I mean, you still take that information and use it in your own decision, but not every coach, as good as they are, is going to work with you. I mean, there are some coaches that people go, oh my goodness, I couldn't work with that person. There's no way. I just have, they come across too harsh or too, you know, I don't know, I'm afraid of that person, or, you know, they seem a little too flighty or whatever. Ask a person that's been coached by them, because everyone has their own technique. And I agree with Michael, like, don't just stick with one coach. Everybody's got a little something different.
Absolutely. I do think it's important to spend some time on YouTube and on Google, you know, researching these people and finding, first of all, to see if they have any content of their own available for you to take a look at. But also, as importantly or more importantly, is to get other people's viewpoints and perspectives on these coaches. As Bev said, there are 1,001 coaches out there, and some of them are incredibly good, and some of them are less so. And I certainly wouldn't want anyone to get taken advantage of by some of those coaches or some of those coaching organizations that don't kind of meet the industry's expectations of what makes a good coach.
Yeah, because anybody that tells you that after 4 lessons, I'm going to be able to help you create a demo, run the other way.
Absolutely.
Mr. Spicer, if I may add to the discussion.
Hey, Damon.
How do? I'm new to the biz. Most likely have a whole lot less experience than the rest of the folks in the room, but came up through one of the, I guess you could call it a demo mill. Several courses of individual training with a trainer who seemed to want to get through the material with a nod and a smile rather than increase my game. I understood that at the outset and tried to go it take what I could from that training and use a little critical thinking with the YouTube videos, just like you were mentioning. Got to the end of that and got my demos, and just had my first on my own training session. And I'm glad this topic came up because I don't feel that it went well. This teacher was they were quick with the whip, I guess you could say. And hearing the interaction of the folks in this room, I'm realizing that this particular teacher may not be a fit, especially after hearing the submission that they did, which is nowhere near what I would want for my voice later on in my career. So I hope that my moment of venting can be a guidepost for other folks in the room. And I thank you for this section of the discussion.
Can I jump in, Graham?
Please, Bev.
You're hiring this person to coach you and to possibly do a demo. If you're not happy with what they're doing, speak up. Say, I'm really not happy with this result. I want to keep working with you until we get this right, but I'm not happy and I'd like to change a few things. Don't just lie down and say, well, you know, you're the coach, do it your way. If you're not happy with what your demos are going to sound like, then you're paying them to get you where you are happy. So speak up. Speak nicely, but speak up.
Very, very true. I do try and keep a more formal tone in discussion. But given what I've seen so far, I'm thinking a friendly break as trainer would be the best bet.
Yeah, Damon, I think that coaching relationships are like any interpersonal relationship, is that sometimes you've got chemistry with somebody and sometimes you don't. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I think that most coaches also recognize that, because believe me, as a guy that worked for one of the large coaching organizations for several years, the coaches don't like working with students that they don't have chemistry with any more than the students like working with coaches that they don't have chemistry with. Do you know what I mean? The coaches find it difficult to progress a student forward if there's some sort of tension in the relationship. So believe me, I don't know that your coach would be offended if you got back to them and said, listen, I'm not sure this is quite the right fit for us. Let's, why don't I try somebody else? I don't think you should be worried about it. In fact, the coach could very well be relieved by it.
Okay, noted. Now, your words about the tough love from Ms. Wolfson were a major reason why I didn't cut the coaching session that I had short. I do consider myself a very gifted amateur, but just like an eighth grade basketball player going to a famous college coach, at the end of the session, you should feel as if I've got a lot of learning to do, but the coach recognized my skills and pointed me in the right direction. I'm taking it that that's the feeling that you ended up with after you wiped the tears off your cheeks with Coach Wolfson.
Yeah, Nancy's a bit of a special. She's a special coach.
I'm hearing it. Yeah.
But as I think I've said frequently before on these sessions, is that I know that I'm a better voice actor for having taken her coursework when I did. She's not easy. It's a little bit of a cookie cutter. Everybody kind of goes through the exact same curriculum in the exact same way. So, you often feel as if she's not really 100% paying attention to you during your classes sometimes. But at the end of it all, I was satisfied with the result because the course content was so good that I felt I got my money's worth. But she is absolutely, tough love, and she plays up that brand. Like that's, she goes out of her way sometimes to be, tough on people because she knows that that's kind of what she's known as out there. The
tough love coach,
camp drill instructor.
Graham, can I just chip in there, Graham?
Hey, yeah, Craig, how are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. And you?
Awesome.
Cool. I would say I'm actually coaching with Nancy just now, and I went through a local coach in Houston. I went through Edge Studios. I went actually coached with David Goldberg a few times, and Mark Cashman as well. And never once did I feel bad about dropping them when I felt it wasn't a good fit for me. And I actually found with Nancy that I needed to be pushed that extra mile. I felt that I needed that extra bit of tough love sometimes. So I think what I'm trying to say is, for some people, Nancy's not going to be good. So for some people, David Goldberg's going to be good. You just have to figure it out yourself. Don't shop around and find out who fits you. And I don't think anybody would be offended by that.
So, Craig, as someone who has worked with Nancy Wolfson, is my description of her fairly accurate?
I was, tears were nearly rolling down my cheek as you were saying what you were saying. So, yes. But in truth, sometimes it's tough love, but most of the stuff that she has to say is true, and you need to hear it sometimes. Other people don't want to tell you, but she'll tell you straight out. And I enjoy working with her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would have to say that I enjoyed working with her as well, but man, it was, you didn't want to show up without having done your homework. That's for sure.
That is for sure.
Yeah. Does anyone know, a question here, I think this was from Tatum. Do you have a list of coaches and producers? Is there a list somewhere? I honestly, I know that Chuck Duran and Stacey J. Aswad, who are the co-hosts of VO Buzz Weekly, they have a website somewhere that lists a lot of kind of the A-list coaches. If someone might want to just do a quick search for that for me, I think it's opencoaches.com, now that I think of it. Opencoaches.com. Doug Turkel just put into the chat box voiceoverresourceguide.com. And I haven't been there in quite some time, so I'm curious to know how up to date it is, but I do remember having visited that website before. voiceoverresourceguide.com. Anybody else have a list of coaches that they've, I'm just wondering if Backstage or Variety or The Hollywood Reporter, I don't know if someone has a list. You know,
Graham, I don't have a list. I just wanted to make two little comments. One, Nancy scares me. and
everybody.
And two, I want to draw attention to Doug's comment before the link he put in. He says, beware of coaches who seem more focused on getting you into their sales funnel than in helping you advance your skills and career. I worked with, I'm sure, the person he's referring to, and that is a very, very valid point, and you must be careful because you can lose sight of where you're heading because the carrots will be dangled repeatedly, and you really need to focus on your goal. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah. There's a coach out there. Oh, that's right, Bev. Thank you very much. Harlan Hogan, who's a well-known voice actor out of the Chicago area. He has a list of coaches on his website, which is harlanhogan.com. I'm not sure how up to date it is, but he does have a list there because I remember going and taking a look at that list. Mark Scott Coaching. Mark Scott does not do performance coaching, by the way. He coaches in the areas of marketing and business development. But he's a good voice actor. He also has a list of coaches and demo producers, and I see Bev has pasted that into the chat box as well. I do want to mention there's a coach out there by the name of Bill DeWeese who, when we talk about, a coach who tries to, push you into his sales funnel and stuff, Bill definitely has a very commercial view. He's in this to make money, and he's got a formula that he tries to push, new voice actors through in order to, sell his training courses to you. And Bill gets a bad rap as a result of that amongst the voiceover community. And I certainly am not a huge fan of this very kind of hard sell, old school internet sales funnel thing that he's got going. But on the other hand, I do want to give Bill DeWeese credit for the incredible amount of training information that he has provided for free. If you go to his YouTube channel, there are hundreds and hundreds of videos there, most of which are, decent content, decent training materials for new voice actors, and they're free. So you may or may not find Bill DeWeese's hard sell training programs, exactly what it is that you're looking for. Maybe you do, I don't know, but you may not. But I certainly would suggest you might want to check some of Bill DeWeese's free YouTube videos, because there really is some valuable information there.
Well, and let it be said that the lion's share of the ill will directed at Bill from the voiceover community is not even for his hard sales tactics, but because the hard sale tactics revolve around selling Fiverr training packages. He is hardcore on the Fiverr train, and almost all of his classes nowadays are how to make $500 a day with Fiverr in only an hour. And he charges like $250, and it's he's just pretty much solely an information marketer by this point.
Yeah, so to do the Fiverr thing, you never have to leave your house, right? You have to stay online 24/7.
I don't even want. I was thinking of not even bringing it up because I don't want to get into the Fiverr topic.
Yeah,
but,
I had a friend that went that route, and I discouraged him against it.
So the whole Bill DeWeese thing, I got a reminder from Randy saying, "Now, Graham, be nice," because you said that we all had to be nice. So I credit Bill with having been and being an incredible resource to new voice actors, because his YouTube channel is incredibly valuable. But just be sure you know exactly what you're getting yourself into if you buy into one of his training courses. Because yes, one of his training courses revolves around using the freelance site called Fiverr, and Fiverr is looked on with considerable disdain by the majority of the voiceover industry.
Graham, can I piggyback on that?
Yes, please.
The second conference I ever went to was in Columbus, Ohio, and one of the main reasons I went was to meet Bill DeWeese and to listen to what he had to say. And that's a perfect example of going and getting the information you need and throwing away what you don't, because he does offer some great advice. I used to listen to his videos all the time when it went into the marketing and work for Voice Bunny and things like that. I faded away, but I did get some information from him. He's well versed in the industry, and he has lots of good things to say.
Graham,
I don't agree with.
Can I tell my Bill DeWeese story?
Please do, James.
Okay. I was doing my first ever audiobook, was the 21st century version of Darwin's On the Origin of Species. And I needed to figure out some of the Latin pronunciations for some of the species and all that kind of stuff. So Bill DeWeese did the original version of Darwin's, On the Origin of Species. Well, in chapter 3, he says something like something quadruped. The word is quadruped. He made a past tense verb out of a word that is a noun. And every time that I'm going on and on and on and on, I'm making mistakes and making mistakes, I have to think of quadruped because it makes me laugh.
That is a monster of a book to try and narrate. And if that was the only mistake that Bill made or that you made in that,
but quadruped, it's quadruped. It just makes me smile every time I think about it.
Question, and I honestly can't remember now who this came from, but there are coaches out there that say that you can produce your own demo, or should your demo always be done by a professional?
Yes.
The thoughts.
Unless you have a library full of sound effects and royalty-free music, or you create your own music and you charge for that kind of thing, you really do not, especially for commercial demos, you probably, unless you're a primo engineer and all that kind of stuff, you probably don't want to do your own demo.
I have a quick question.
Emily?
Hey, it's Emily in Toronto. So as far, if I may just sort of piggyback on that idea with production, sound effects, and final demos, would you recommend having a different demo either for looking for agents versus or communicating with casting directors versus for something that highlights your skill set? I say this because I had a commercial and an animation reel both produced, and they turned out quite great. I'm really happy with them. But then when I've used them with people in the industry, they said, it's a little bit overproduced. I'm having trouble hearing your voice, and I can't tell what you sound like and what the production is. So I was very lucky because I stayed in touch with the audio engineer. He kept all the files, and he sent me all the raw files, which was fantastic. So I'm wondering if I should go in and recut one, which is just a couple of samples of some different, stronger voices that, are within my wheelhouse and just a bit of variety to use for maybe looking for an agent or representation, or if representation is even necessary with things like voices.com, voice123, which was the second question that I had, but I'll bookmark that and start with the first one.
Well, first of all, welcome to a fellow Torontonian.
Hello.
Glad that you're here. And you're absolutely right, is that when a spot is being, like a television spot specifically, is being mixed for final use, often the voiceover is fairly recessed in the mix, and that it's not always, it doesn't always feature us in the way we would like to be featured, especially for a segment for a demo. And it's funny, I happened to be watching an old VO Buzz Weekly episode earlier today, and the guest was Bob Bergen. And Bob Bergen was recording a new commercial demo with Chuck Duran, who is the co-host of VO Buzz Weekly, and he's also a demo producer. And Bob said that, often, Bob Bergen is one of the most successful voice actors in Los Angeles. It's not like he has to go and produce a new demo. There's no shortage of great spots that he's worked on that he can't just cut up little bits from and pull together a demo for himself. But he wanted to go into Chuck and have a new commercial demo produced for exactly the reason you mentioned, Emily, and that is because he just felt that his voice was too recessed back in the mix in most of the television spots that he had been featured on, and that it just didn't do his read justice. And he actually, in some cases, wanted to recreate a spot that he had done for real just so that he could get a better mix out of Chuck. So there's certainly something to be said for having a demo produced specifically, having a demo produced, even though you've got great material in your portfolio, having a demo produced just because it features your voice better. It's mixed specifically to feature and flatter your voice.
Yeah, it was interesting getting the feedback from a casting director after I sent, and it was very gracious of her to take the time to listen to them. But it was interesting hearing the feedback of, they're great, but I can't hear your voice. And someone else in the industry as well is, they're great, but I can't hear your voice. So I had them remixed to, I don't know the technical terminology. Like I said, I'm still greener. So I've done this sort of training with coaches and stuff, but have not gone out or been doing a lot of my own auditions as yet. But yeah, so it was interesting having professional feedback saying, it's great, but So then I'm saying, so do I keep using that because they sound, I mean, they're not from real spots. They're fabricated spots, right? So for the sake of producing a demo, but they sound great. I'm quite happy with them. But as I mentioned, it's interesting wondering if I need both.
So are you suggesting that there should be some sort of distinction between a demo for agents and producers than for other potential buyers of your product?
Potentially.
You said you need both, and I just want to make sure I understand clearly what it is.
Yes, so that's my question. If both are necessary, because it's almost come up as if both are necessary in a way, but I'm just wondering if people with more experience have come across that.
I'm not sure I've heard of anyone who had a demo that was specific for. I'm not sure I've ever heard of anyone that had two versions of their commercial demo, one that was mixed differently than the other for a different audience.
I actually kind of do.
Oh, well, Michael, let's hear the story.
Yeah, so, and I didn't approach it from this standpoint, but I have kind of, and I've got this for my video game, and I've got this for my commercial reel, and it's just kind of wound up this way. But I've still kept both, and I'm still using both, kind of for that sort of purpose. So basically, what ended up happening is that I had a collection of demo reels that were cobbled together with half reel spots I'd done, half spots that various people had done in various times I'd have my demos touched up. They were kind of hodgepodge. But my commercial reel at the time, I thought was very strong. But it had a lot of range. It went from the kind of your neighbors in health, TriStar, kind of like neighborly warm reads to like really high energy kids spots for, like new at Nickelodeon kind of stuff. And so, but then I had heard from some producers and even from some agents that thought that when I asked them about it, they thought that maybe it was too eclectic and that it was, that it wouldn't be good to represent myself to an agency with, who would be more interested in hearing kind of my core voice. So and then my video game reel was just cobbled together, no sound effects, with like 30 different characters that I had been paid to do in video games. So it was a very impressive display of range, but it wasn't really an agency demo. But I got a ton of work out of it because video game developers thought it was amazing. So fast forward, I went to Chuck Duran. I got 4 demos done, including a new video game demo, a new commercial demo, and TV narration and promo. But then I still really liked the video game reel and the commercial reel because I knew for a fact they had gotten me a good amount of work when I was sending them out directly to people. So what I did is I rebranded the one I got from Chuck as my national commercial reel that had a lot more of just kind of my normal talking voice. It sounded more authentically me, and then kind of a range of shades of me in it. And then I kept the other one. So I had national commercial, and then I branded the other one as local and regional commercial. And so because you hear more of those kind of reads in local radio markets and that sort of thing. And then for the video game one, I had the one Chuck did as my video game demo, and then the other one I branded as my character range demo kind of thing, something like that. So I kept both of them. And now I kind of see them as, this demo is not really suited for agents, but clients eat it up, and because they love hearing just how kooky and crazy my vocal chameleon-esque voice range is. And similar to the commercial thing, they're impressed by the range, but maybe an agent wouldn't appreciate it so much. But long story short, I don't think it's probably smart to go that way unless you have a pre-existing demo that you got a lot of work with that you don't really want to throw away, and you could maybe rebrand it. I wouldn't approach a producer specifically for the standpoint of like, let me do 2 demos, one for agents and one for other people. Was that? I feel like I rambled for not much purpose there. Sorry.
Actually, no. It was
That was super helpful.
It was very helpful. And certainly the advice that you've been given is consistent with everything I've heard as well, Michael, where having a commercial demo that has no range whatsoever just demonstrates that you're a newbie. Having a commercial demo that has way too much range means that you're a newbie because you don't really understand yet where your money voice is. And most agents I've spoken to, they want exactly what it was that Chuck Duran produced for you, is they want a demo that shows shading, that shows that, yes, you can, take your natural voice and do a great PSA, but you can also take your natural voice and do a car ad with it. But they don't want to hear character work in any sort of fashion on it. So I think that that what you did was the perfect answer to have one called national commercial and another one called regional local commercial. Made a ton of sense to me. So with that said, we got to go. We're going to have to wind it up. I want to once again thank VoiceZam for sponsoring the show tonight, voicezam.com. Remember to use the promo code OpenMic, OPENMIC. And if you use that promo code at sign up, Bob Merkel, the owner of VoiceZam, is going to double the length of your free trial. Until next Sunday, work hard, audition a ton, get lots of work, and we'll talk to you then. Good night, everybody.